The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked asphalt of Route 66 into a slick river of regret. Cameron Hayes gripped the steering wheel of his beat-up Ford pickup, knuckles white as bone, his heart slamming against his ribs harder than the storm outside. "You're no son of mine." His father's voice echoed in his skull, those words sharper than any knife, slicing through the cab as thunder cracked the sky open. He'd stormed out of the house in Kansas City just hours ago, after the blow-up that had been brewing for years, ever since Dad caught him kissing that boy from the community college art class behind the bleachers. 18 years old, and the world had narrowed to this. Headlights cutting through sheets of water, wipers slapping futilely, and the desperate urge to outrun the shame coiling in his gut like barbed wire. Cameron wasn't running from the rain. He was fleeing the man who'd raised him on football fields and Sunday barbecues, only to disown him for loving the wrong way. The deer appeared like a ghost in the downpour, a flash of tawny hide and panicked eyes, bounding across the highway from the endless prairie scrub. Cameron swore, yanking the wheel left, but physics had other plans. Tires hydroplaned, the truck fishtailed, and then impact. Not the deer, thank Christ, but the guardrail, metal screeching as the Ford crumpled against it in a symphony of destruction. Airbags exploded in his face, powder burning his eyes, and the world tilted into chaos. When Cameron came to, the rain was a relentless tattoo on the roof, and his left leg throbbed like it was on fire. The dashboard clock blinked 2:17 a.m., frozen in the electrical blackout. He fumbled for his phone. No signal, of course, out here in the ass end of Missouri where even God forgot the bars. Groaning, he kicked open the door, tumbling out into ankle-deep water that soaked his jeans instantly. The truck was totaled, hood accordioned like origami, steam hissing from the radiator like an angry serpent. That's when he heard it. A low groan from the ditch, not 20 feet away. Cameron froze, squinting through the deluge. The deer? No human. A man, sprawled in the mud, one arm twisted at an unnatural angle, blood dark and blooming, seeping from a gash on his forehead. He'd been thrown from a motorcycle, Cameron realized, spotting the mangled Harley half buried in the embankment, his chrome glinting mockingly under the lightning. "Hey, you okay?" Cameron's voice cracked, raw from disuse, as he splashed toward the figure. Close. The guy was a mess, mid-20s maybe, built like a linebacker with ink-black hair plastered to his skull, a leather jacket shredded at the seams. His eyes fluttered open, hazel, flecked with gold, wide with pain and confusion. "Wah, crash? Shit. My arm." The stranger's voice was gravelly, laced with a faint southern drawl that tugged at something deep in Cameron's chest. He tried to sit up, then hissed, collapsing back. "Don't move, man. I'm calling, wait." No signal. Cameron patted his pockets uselessly. Panic clawed up his throat. This wasn't his mess, but leaving him, that wasn't the Hayes way, not even after tonight. "Hold on. I'll get help." The guy, Luke, he'd learn later, Luke Harlan from Nashville, grabbed Cameron's wrist with his good hand, grip surprisingly strong. "No cops. Please. Just help me up the road. There's a motel in Eldon, 5 miles east." Cameron's gut twisted. No cops? That screamed trouble. Fugitive, maybe, or worse. But those eyes, pleading in the storm, hooked him deeper than he could explain. "Fine. But if you pass out, I'm dragging your ass." What followed was a blur of agony and adrenaline. Cameron slinging Luke's arm over his shoulder, half carrying the heavier man through the rain-slicked night. Every step jarred Cameron's bruised ribs, every curse from Luke's lips a spark in the dark. They made it to the highway's shoulder just as distant headlights pierced the gloom, a semi-truck rumbling past without slowing. Bastards. By some miracle or dumb luck, a beat-up Chevy Impala pulled over 10 minutes later, driven by a grizzled farmer named Earl who smelled like chewing tobacco and regret. "Y'all look like drowned rats," Earl grunted, tossing them a blanket from the back. He dropped them at the Eldon Motor Lodge, a neon-lit relic from the 50s with vacancy signs flickering like faulty promises. Inside room 7, the air reeked of mildew and old smoke, but it was dry. Cameron eased Luke onto the sagging bed, peeling off the sodden jacket to reveal a torso etched with tattoos. A phoenix rising from flames across his pecs, script reading "Rise Again" curling down his ribs. Luke winced as Cameron probed the arm. Dislocated, probably fractured. "You a doctor or something?" Luke muttered, teeth gritted. "Nah. Just grew up on a farm. Seen my share of breaks." Cameron's hands shook as he fashioned a sling from a torn t-shirt. Close. Luke smelled like rain and leather, with an undercurrent of something wild, untamed. Cameron's pulse stuttered. "Not fear. Not exactly." "What's your story? Running from something?" Luke's laugh was bitter, cut short by pain. "Ain't we all?" Ex-boyfriend with a temper. Club in Kansas City turned ugly. Rode out to clear my head. Next thing, bam. His eyes met Cameron's, holding them a beat too long. "You? Truck looks like hell." "Your fight." Cameron swallowed, the weight of his father's words crashing back. "Family bullshit. Dad found out I'm, gay. Said I was dead to him." The admission hung heavy, raw as an open wound. Luke's expression softened, a flicker of understanding bridging the gap between strangers. "Sucks, kid. My old man pulled the same crap years back. Threw me out at 16. But you're out here saving asses in a monsoon. That's more man than he'll ever know." They talked through the night, or rather, Luke talked, doped on painkillers from the motel's first aid kit, while Cameron listened, mesmerized. Stories spilled. Luke's bar fights in Nashville dives, the underground poetry slams where he'd found his voice, the lover who'd promised forever then shattered it with fists. Cameron shared fragments, his dreams of art school in Chicago, the sketches hidden in his glove box, the ache of loving in secret. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, painting the room in watery light. Luke's color was better, but the arm needed real care. "Oh, you, Cam," he said, voice husky. "Big time." Cameron shrugged, heat rising in his cheeks. "Pay it forward sometime." As Earl's Impala idled outside for the ride to the nearest ER in Jefferson City, Cameron felt a pull, magnetic and terrifying. This stranger had crashed into his life like the storm itself. Messy, electric, alive. Little did he know, Luke Harlan would knock on his door again, months later, carrying redemption wrapped in betrayal's sharp edges. The ER was a fluorescent purgatory. Beeping monitors, harried nurses, and the metallic tang of antiseptic that clung to everything. Cameron paced the waiting room, nursing a styrofoam coffee that tasted like regret, while Luke got x-rayed and splinted. 2 fractures. The doc said ulna and radius, like his arm had decided to rewrite itself in rebellion. When Luke emerged, bandaged and sheepish, a lopsided grin cracked his bruised face. "They want to keep me overnight." Observation bullshit. You don't gotta stick around. But Cameron did. He crashed on the vinyl couch, sketching in his notebook under the guise of boredom. Luke's profile, fierce and vulnerable, captured in quick charcoal strokes. By morning, discharge papers in hand, Luke clapped Cameron's shoulder. Road trip to KC? My bike's toast. Your truck's scrap. Earl's lending his beater till I square up. It was a lifeline, this detour. Cameron nodded, ignoring the voicemail buzzing his phone. Mom, probably, pleading for him to come home. He silenced it, climbed into the Impala's passenger seat, and let Luke's playlist fill the cab. Springsteen anthems laced with raw twang, windows down to let the prairie wind whip away the last of the rain. The drive back was a revelation, hours of asphalt unspooling like confessions. Luke opened up more. His mama's death from cancer when he was 12, leaving him to a father's bottle-fueled rage. The first boy he'd kissed under a Tennessee full moon. Sweet and stolen. The tattoo parlor in Memphis where he'd apprenticed, inking stories onto skin to escape his own. Art's my armor, man, Luke said, glancing at Cameron's sketchbook. What's yours? Cameron hesitated, then flipped open the pages, portraits of hidden lovers. Cityscapes dreamed in vibrant oils. A self-portrait staring back with eyes too haunted for 18. Luke's fingers traced the lines. Reverent. Damn, Cam. You're good. Real good. Heat bloomed low in Cameron's belly, unspoken electricity crackling between them. At a roadside diner in Sedalia, greasy spoons and pie that could glue your arteries. Luke's foot brushed Cameron's under the table. Deliberate. Cameron froze, pulse thundering, but didn't pull away. When their eyes locked over cherry Coke fizz, it was a question and an answer all at once. That night, in a no-tell-motel outside the city limits, the line blurred. Luke's good hand cupped Cameron's jaw, thumb rough against smooth skin. "This okay?" he whispered, breath warm against Cameron's lips. "Yeah," Cameron breathed, diving in. The kiss was fire, desperate, hungry, tasting of salt and storm. Clothes shed in a tangle, bodies mapping new territories under the cheap sheets. Luke was gentle with his injuries, but fierce in his want, murmuring praises that chipped away at Cameron's walls. "Beautiful," Luke growled against his throat. So damn beautiful. For the first time, Cameron felt seen, not as a disappointment, but as whole. They tangled through the night, exhaustion claiming them in a sweaty, sated heap as dawn painted the blinds pink. But Kansas City loomed, a reckoning. Luke dropped him at the city bus depot, promising to call, his number scrawled on a napkin, smudged but real. "Don't let the bastards grind you, Cam. You're tougher than that." Cameron watched the Impala vanish into traffic, chest hollow. He had $47 in his wallet, a duffel of clothes, and dreams fraying at the edges. The bus to Chicago would leave in an hour, art school acceptance letter burning a hole in his bag. But home tugged, insidious. What if Dad cooled off? What if Mom needed him? He bought a ticket south instead, to the Hayes Ranch on the outskirts, where cornfields whispered secrets to the wind. The walk up the gravel drive felt like a march to the gallows, porch light mocking him in the twilight. Mom answered the door, eyes red-rimmed, pulling him into a bone-crushing hug. "Oh, baby. We thought your father, he's..." Inside, Dad sat in his recliner, beer in hand, face carved from granite. Their eyes met, and the silence stretched taut as a bowstring. "Get out," Dad finally rasped, not looking up. Ain't nothing changed. The words landed like fists, but Cameron stood taller. I saved a life last night, Dad. Pulled a man from a wreck. Doesn't that count for something? Dad's laugh was ugly, hollow. Saving strangers don't make you straight, boy. It makes you foolish. Cameron left without another word. Backpack slung over his shoulder. Heart a lead weight. The bus depot again. This time for real Chicago bound. City lights calling like a lover's promise. Weeks blurred into a grind. Art school scholarships barely covering ramen and rent in a Wicker Park walk-up. Cameron sketched feverishly. Nudes inspired by Luke's form. Urban grit bleeding onto canvas. Luke's texts came sporadic. Arms healing. Missed that diner pie and you. Then radio silence. Days stretching to weeks. Cameron told himself it was nothing, just life pulling them apart. But on a crisp October evening, as leaves skittered across Michigan Avenue like confetti regrets, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. Cam? It's Luke. Need a favor. Big one. The voice was strained, edged with something dark. Cameron's stomach nodded. Where are you, Casey? Listen, my ex, the one from before, he's out. And he knows about us. Says he's comin' for me. For you. Betrayal's shadow loomed, but so did the pull, that magnetic force from the storm. I'm on the next train. The Amtrak rattled into Union Station like a tin can on rails, brakes screeching under the cavernous dome. Cameron stepped off, duffel thumping against his thigh, the air thick with diesel and desperation. It was November now, the Midwest bite sharpening into winter's promise, and Kansas City felt smaller, meaner, than he'd remembered. Luke waited by the baggage claim, arms still in a sling but otherwise whole. Jeans faded, leather jacket mended with duct tape, that lopsided grin flashing like a beacon. Christ! You came. Luke pulled him into a one-armed crush, stubble scraping Cameron's cheek, cologne mingling with the faint scent of rain that seemed to follow him everywhere. Close. The shadows under his eyes were bruises of their own, testament to sleepless nights. Couldn't leave you hanging, Cameron murmured, inhaling him like oxygen. X sounds like bad news, worse than bad. Tommy's got a rap sheet longer than my ink. Assault. Possession. Thinks I owe him for wasting his time. Luke's jaw tightened, hazel eyes storming. Heard I hooked up with some pretty boy artist from the grapevine. Tracked your number from a mutual. Cameron's skin prickled. The art world was small, incestuous, one loose-lipped classmate, and here they were. We crash at my old place? Mom's sympathetic, Dad's. Whatever. Luke nodded, but hesitation flickered. Don't want to drag you into my mess. Too late for that. Cameron hailed a cab. The ride to the suburbs a tense cocoon of small talk masking the undercurrent of fear. Luke's hand found his on the cracked vinyl seat, thumb stroking knuckles, a silent vow. The Hayes Ranch hadn't changed. Weathered siding, the old swing creaking on the porch. Mom's herb garden defiant against the frost. She met them at the door, flower-dusted apron hugging her ample frame, eyes lighting like she'd won the lottery. Cameron, and friend. Her gaze darted between them, piecing it together with maternal radar. Luke Harlan. Ma'am. Oh, your boy my life. Luke extended his good hand. Charm dialed up Southern Sweet. Mom melted, ushering them in with apple pie promises. Dad was absent, working late at the mill. Thank God. Over coffee in the kitchen, Mom fussed, bandaging a phantom cut on Luke's brow while grilling gently. You too. Close? Cameron flushed, but Luke jumped in smooth as bourbon. Cam's the real deal, Mrs. Hayes. Pulled me from a ditch when no one else would. Her eyes softened, glancing at Cameron with a mix of pride and sorrow. That's my boy. Always was the fixer. Upstairs in his old room, posters of Van Gogh and Nirvana faded on the walls, tension uncoiled. They collapsed onto the twin bed, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces forged in fire. Luke's kisses were slower this time, exploratory, mapping scars both seen and unseen. Missed this, he whispered, hands sliding under Cameron's shirt, calluses igniting skin. Missed you. Love bloomed in the quiet hours, tentative and fierce. Cameron traced the phoenix tattoo, fingers lingering on the flames. What did you rise from? Luke. Everything, he replied, voice muffled against Cameron's neck. You, the closet. This house. They moved together, unhurried, the world shrinking to gasps and grips, release crashing like waves on Lake Michigan. Morning brought reality's bite. Dad's truck rumbling into the drive at dawn, boots stomping on the porch. Cameron tensed as the door creaked open, but Luke slept on, oblivious. Breakfast, Mom called down, voice strained. Cameron slipped downstairs, heart hammering. Dad loomed in the kitchen doorway, flannel shirt rumpled, eyes narrowing at the extra plate. Who's the stray? Luke. Friend from school. Lie tasted sour, but truth was dynamite. Dad grunted, forking eggs with mechanical precision. When Luke descended, hair tousled, sling askew, the air thickened. Handshakes were curt, praisals sharp. Harlan. Huh? What line you in? Tattoo artist. Sir. Nashville roots. Luke met the gaze steady. No flinching. Dad's lip curled. Ink slinger. Figures cammed pick up strays like that. John. Mom warned. But the damage was done. Cameron's fists clenched under the table, words bubbling like acid. He's a good man, Dad. Saved my ass more than once. From what? Your choices. Dad's voice dropped low, venomous. Don't need another fairy tale in my house. The slur landed like a slap, room spinning. Luke's chair scraped back, face thunderous, but Cameron surged up first. Fuck you. I'm gay, Dad. Deal with it or lose me for good. Storm out number 2. Cameron grabbing coats, Luke trailing, Mom's pleas chasing them into the cold. They piled into Dad's old beater, borrowed without asking, and peeled out, gravel spitting defiance. Sorry, Cameron muttered, hands trembling on the wheel. Luke's hand covered his. Ain't your apology to make. Your old man's scared, is all. Of losin' control. They holed up in a KC dive motel. Neon vacancy buzzing like a headache. Days bled into a rhythm. Luke job hunting at tattoo parlors. Cameron freelancing sketches for local mags. Nights were sanctuary, bodies entwined. Stories swapped like secrets. Luke confessed the poetry. Verses scrawled in bar napkins. Dreams of spoken-word stages in Chicago. Cameron read them aloud, voice cracking on lines about broken wings and mended hearts. But Tommy's shadow lengthened. Hang-up calls at odd hours. A slash tire on Luke's borrowed ride. He's close, Luke said one night, pacing the threadbare carpet, cigarette smoke curling like ghosts. We gotta go. Chicago, you're seen. Cameron nodded, but doubt gnawed. Leaving meant cutting ties deeper, admitting defeat, What if we fight? Stand ground. Luke's laugh was wry. Babe, I'm a runner by trade. But with you, maybe I stay. The decision crystallized over greasy diner hash. Chicago. Fresh start. They packed light, Amtrak tickets punched, adrenaline humming. At the station, as the train whistle wailed, Luke pulled Cameron close. This us, Cam. Real. The kiss was public, unapologetic, passers-by blurring into irrelevance. For a moment, the world bent right. Chicago swallowed them whole. L trains rattling overhead, Lake Michigan's wind whipping off the Gold Coast. Cameron's studio apartment became theirs, easel in the corner, Luke's tattoo gun humming on the fire escape. He landed gigs in Wicker Park shops, inking hipsters with ironic anchors. Cameron's canvases sold at underground galleries, whispers of prodigy trailing him like smoke. Love deepened, roots sinking into brick and steel. Winter hit hard, blizzards blanketing the city in white silence, and they weathered it curled under thrift quilts, hot toddies steaming. Luke proposed a road trip for New Year's, back to KC. Not for family, but closure. Face Tommy. End it. Cameron agreed, steel in his spine. But en route, in a snowy diner off I-70, Luke's phone lit up. Unknown caller. Message terse. Know where your boy's from. Ranch on Elm. Say hi to Daddy. Panic surged. He's bluffing. Luke's face paled. Or he's not. They detoured south, hearts pounding. The Hayes Ranch glowed under Christmas lights, ironic cheer. Mom answered, tearful, pulling them in from the flurry. John's at the mill. Holiday shift. Inside, the tree twinkled, stockings hung crooked. Luke hung back, but Cameron paced, waiting. When Dad stomped in, boots shedding slush, the air crackled. What the hell you doin' here? Dad growled, eyes flicking to Luke like he'd caught them mid-act. Warning you, Cameron said, voice steady. Tommy, Luke's ex. He's coming. Dangerous. Dad's scoff died as the window shattered. Brick through glass. Wrapped in barbed wire and a note. Faggots burn. Chaos erupted. Mom screaming. Dad lunging for the shotgun by the mantel. Get down, Luke yelled, tackling Cameron behind the couch as Dad blasted into the night. Sirens wailed distant, neighbors' lights flicking on. Tommy never showed, spooked. Maybe, but the damage lingered. Glass shards like accusations, Mom's sobs echoing. Dad slumped in his chair, shotgun smoking, face ashen. This. Because of you. No, Cameron snapped, rising. Because of hate. Yours included. Silence stretched, broken only by distant cop chatter. Dad's eyes met Luke's, appraisal shifting, grudging. You protect my boy? With everything, Luke replied, chin lifted. Dad nodded once, jerky. Then get him safe. This ain't over. It was the closest to absolution Cameron would get. They left at dawn, Mom pressing pie into their hands, whispers of proud hanging unspoken. Back in Chicago, the high faded. Luke withdrew, nights at the shop stretching late, poetry gatherings turning solitary. Just stress, he'd say, but the distance grew, a chasm widening. One February blizzard, Cameron came home to silence. Luke's gear gone, note on the fridge. Tommy's got dirt. On me, on your family. Can't risk it. Love you, always. Betrayal hit like a gut punch, sharper than Dad's rejection. Cameron crumpled, sobs racking him on the linoleum. Luke, his anchor, had run, leaving wreckage in his wake. Spring thawed Chicago's iron grip, but Cameron's heart stayed frozen, encased in the ice of abandonment. March bloomed with forsythia riots along the lakefront, couples strolling hand in hand under greening elms, their laughter a mocking chorus. He threw himself into art, canvases sprawling across the apartment floor, pigments bleeding rage and loss in violent swaths of crimson and indigo. Galleries buzzed with his name now. Hayes' raw emotion cuts deep, one critic gushed in the Tribune. But the praise rang hollow, each sale funding rent but not mending the fracture. Luke's note became a talisman of torment, folded in his wallet, edges frayed from endless unfolds. Can't risk it. What dirt? Drugs? Debts? Or worse, had Tommy twisted lies about Cameron, painting him as the villain who lured Luke into danger? Sleepless nights spun scenarios. Luke beaten in some alley, or worse, crawling back to his abuser for protection. Cameron scrolled deleted contacts, tempted to dial, but pride or fear held him back. Mom called weakly, voice a lifeline across the miles. "Your father's asking about you," she'd say, tentative. "Saw your exhibit online." Muttered, "Not bad." It was progress, glacial but real, Dad's way of thawing without apology. Cameron clung to it, sketching her portrait in soft charcoals, sending it framed with a note. "Miss you. Healing." Work at the coffee shop, barista gigs between classes, offered distraction. Steaming lattes for bleary-eyed undergrads, banter with queer barflies who eyed him with hopeful glances. One, a lithe dancer named Riley with eyeliner sharp as his wit, lingered after closing one rainy April eve. "You're hurting, aren't you?" Riley said, tracing foam hearts on the counter. "Let me buy you a drink." No strings. Cameron almost said yes, the warmth of another's touch a siren call. But Luke's ghost loomed, hazel eyes accusing. "Rain check," he demurred, pocketing tips instead. Summer scorched in, humidity turning the city into a steam bath. Cameron's solo show at a Bucktown gallery, fractured light, drew crowds, urbanites sipping cheap wine, murmuring over pieces born of betrayal. The centerpiece, Storm's Echo, a massive oil of two figures entwined in rain-lashed shadow, faces obscured but longing etched in every stroke. Whispers rippled, autobiographical. A buyer, a silver-haired collector with a kind smile, offered 5 figures. Cameron accepted, the check a bomb, funding a sublet in Pilsen where murals bloomed like defiant wildflowers. But solitude bred demons. On a sweltering July 4th, fireworks exploding over the lake like celebratory gunfire, Cameron wandered Grant Park alone, sketchpad idle. The crowd surged, families, lovers, revelers, and he felt adrift, a ghost in his own skin. That's when he saw him, across the throng, under a burst of red chrysanthemums, Luke Harlan, laughing with a group of tattooed 20-somethings, arm sling long gone, a beer in his good hand. Time fractured. Cameron's breath hitched, feet rooted as Luke turned, eyes locking across the chaos, gold flecks widening in shock. The world narrowed, fireworks booming, bass thumping from distant speakers, but only Luke mattered, striding through the press like a man pursued. Cam. The name was a prayer, rough-edged. But close. Luke looked. Changed. Leaner, ink fresh on his forearms. A compass rose pointing north, toward home. But the weariness lingered, etched deeper. You left. Cameron's voice cracked, fists balled at his sides. No call, no nothing. Just a goddamn note. Luke winced, running a hand through sweat-damp hair. Had to. Tommy, he wasn't bluffing. Had photos. From the ranch. Your dad with that shotgun? He twisted it. Said I'd bring heat down on you all. Cops. Press. Ruin your family more than I already had. Bullshit. Fury boiled over. Hot as the night. You ran. From us. From this. Cameron gestured wildly between them, drawing stares. Luke stepped closer, voice low, urgent. I thought I was protecting you. Went back to Nashville, squared with Tommy, paid him off, threatened a restraining order. Clean slate. But Cam, I couldn't stop thinking. Your sketches, your fire. Came here to find you. Months later, sarcasm dripped, but doubt flickered. Luke's eyes, raw with regret, mirroring his own ache. A firework cascade lit his face, tears glinting. Every day. Wrote poems no one heard. Inked your name under my skin. He tugged his sleeve, revealing script along his wrist. Cameron in elegant cursive, intertwined with thorns. The sight undid him. Cameron surged forward, fisting Luke's shirt, pulling him into the shadows of an oak. Their kiss was war, teeth clashing, hands gripping, months of silence exploding in desperate need. Don't you dare leave again, Cameron gasped against his mouth. Never, Luke vowed, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling. Marry me, Cam. Or whatever equals forever in this mess. Laughter bubbled through tears. Absurd, perfect. Elope? In this heat? Why not? Luke grinned. Wicked. They stumbled to a justice of the peace the next morning. Hungover, hopeful, vows exchanged in a fluorescent office. Rings from a pawn shop glinting cheap and true. Honeymoon was a rooftop barbecue in Pilsen. Friends from the scene toasting with PBR. Riley winking told you. Luke read poetry under string lights. Odes to storms and salvations. Voice gravel wrapping Cameron's soul. Fall gilded the city anew. Leaves carpeting sidewalks in copper and gold. Married life was a dance. Luke's shop thriving. Cameron's commissions rolling in. They adopted a rescue mutt, Jasper, who snored like a freight train and chased squirrels with gleeful abandon. Domesticity suited them. Lazy Sundays with the Times crossword, Luke's head in Cameron's lap as he sketched. But shadows lingered. Tommy's specter, though silenced, echoed in nightmares. Luke bolting upright, sweat slick, murmuring apologies. And Dad, radio silence since the brick. A wall Cameron wasn't ready to scale. Thanksgiving loomed. Mom's invites pleading. Bring Luke. Please. Cameron wavered, but Luke nodded. Family's worth the fight. The drive to KC was fraught. Interstate 70 a ribbon of tension. Radio scanning classic rock to fill the quiet. What if he turns us away? Cameron voiced the fear aloud. Then we leave. But your mom's gold deserves better. The ranch welcomed with pie-scented air. Mom's hug enveloping. Dad waited in the den. TV droning football. Beer sweating on the side table. Eyes met, wary. Waited. Luke, Dad grunted. Standing. No handshake. But no slur. Progress. Dad. Cameron's throat tightened. Dinner was a minefield. Turkey carved with precision. Small talk skirting edges. Luke bridged gaps. Stories of Nashville mischief. Compliments on Dad's workshop tools. Bet you could ink a mean eagle, sir. Dad's chuckle rumbled, surprise flickering. Had a steady hand once. Before the mill ground it down. Post-meal, as Mom cleared plates, Dad cleared his throat. Saw your show online. That painting storm one reminded me of the night you left. Wreckage and all. Cameron's fork paused. Yeah. Inspired by it. Dad nodded. Slow. You always were the dreamer. Thought it'd break you. Pause. Heavy. Guess it made you. Luke's foot nudged Cameron's under the table. Anchor. We're good, Dad. Building something real. Dad's gaze shifted to Luke, praising anew. Heard you pulled Cam from a ditch. Reckon that's more than I did. The admission hung. Olive branch extended. Cameron gripped it. You can still. Dessert dissolved into pie and stories, old ranch yarns, Luke's tattoo tales. By firelight later, Dad pulled Cameron aside on the porch, frost nipping the air. Ain't easy, boy. Admitting wrong. But proud of you both. Tears pricked, unshed. Means everything. Winter wrapped them in quiet victories. Holiday cards from the ranch. Dad's gruff love ya tacked on. Luke's poetry chapbook self-published. Readings packing cafes. Cameron's mural commission, a rainbow arc over Boys Town, cemented his rise. But climax brewed in spring rains, echoes of that fateful storm. A call from Mom, voice quavering, your father's sick. Mill accident, backs busted. Docs say retirement, or worse. They raced west, hearts in throats. Hospital sterile and stark. Dad pale in the bed. Mom vigil kept. John Hayes, tough as nails, the surgeon said. But scans lied. Vertebrae cracked. Nerves pinched. Mobility a gamble. Dad's eyes found them in the doorway. Luke's hand in Cameron's. United. Knew you'd come. We wouldn't not, Cameron said. Throat thick. Weeks blurred. Rehab shuttles. Home mods funded by Cameron's windfall. Luke dove in cooking meals, cracking jokes to pierce Dad's gruff silences. Stubborn as a mule. This one, he'd tease, earning reluctant laughs. One evening, as rain pattered the ranch windows, Dad beckoned Luke to the bedside. You saved my boy twice over. Reckon I owe you. Luke shook his head. Family now, sir. No debts. Dad's hand clasped his, frail but firm. Call me John. Healing unfolded slow. Physical therapy sessions where Cameron sketched Dad's determined scowl. Luke inking a small phoenix on his forearm. Rise again, Dad murmured, tracing it. Betrayal's ghost resurfaced in May. A letter from Tommy, forwarded from Nashville. Heard about the old man. My gift. Enclosed. Photos from the brick night, twisted to implicate Luke in some fabricated feud. Rage simmered, but unity tempered it. They burned the envelope in the backyard fire pit, ashes scattering on the wind. Past's ash, Luke said, arms around Cameron. We're the fire. Summer's zenith baked the plains gold, but the Hayes Ranch simmered with unspoken tempests. Dad's recovery plateaued, wheelchair days outnumbering walks, frustration etching lines deeper than years. Useless as tits on a boar, he'd mutter, tossing tools aside in the workshop Luke had retrofitted with ramps. Cameron bit back retorts, channeling worry into murals. A commission for the local high school, celebrating Midwest resilience, his brush strokes weaving personal thorns into public triumph. Luke thrived in the chaos, his Nashville wanderlust grounded by purpose. He expanded the ranch's old barn into a pop-up tattoo studio, Harlan's Haven, etched on a sign Cameron designed, drawing city escapees for ink sessions amid hay bales and starlit skies. Therapy with needles, Luke quipped, as clients bared souls alongside skin. 1. A burly trucker confessing his own closeted youth, left with a pride flag ribboned around a bicep. You boys? Inspiration. Nights. They collapsed in the guest room, Mom insisting on proper space, though her winks betrayed knowing. Love evolved. Seasoned. Lazy explorations under ceiling fans, Luke's poetry recited like liturgy, Cameron's fingers painting lazy patterns on sweat-slick backs. You're my canvas, Cameron whispered once, lips to collarbone. But cracks spiderwebbed. Dad's pride chafed at dependency, snipes at dinner sharpened. City boy's soft hands won't fix this, he'd grumble after a failed PT rep. Eyes on Luke. Cameron defended fiercely, he's family. But the barbs lingered, festering. Tommy's echo amplified in July heat, a package arriving unannounced. A burner phone, video cued. Grainy footage, Luke, months prior in Nashville, arguing with Tommy in a dim bar, shoves escalating to blows. Self-defense, Luke explained, face ashen as they watched in the kitchen, Mom oblivious upstairs. But he edited it. Makes me look like the aggressor. Cameron's stomach roiled. Why now? Payback. Worse. He's lawyered up, suing for assault, claiming I started it over stolen property. Me leaving. Luke's laugh was hollow. Wants money. Or you. Fear coiled. Serpentine. They lawyered too. A pro bono queer rights firm in KC. Advocates sharp as tacks. We fight, the attorney said, reviewing the tape. Discredit him. Your marriage? Alibi gold. Court dates loomed in August. A circus of depositions and subpoenas. Cameron testified first, voice steady recounting the storm rescue. Their bond forged in mud and mercy. Luke's protector, not predator, he affirmed, eyes locking on the judge. A stern woman with a rainbow pin discreet on her lapel. Luke's turn was raw. Stand detailing the abuse, bruises hidden under leather. The night he fled Nashville bloody but unbroken. Tommy twists love into chains, he said, voice cracking. Cameron? He's freedom. Tommy slunk in, slick-suited, narrative-polished, jilted lover, victim of gold-digging drifter. But cross-examination unraveled him. Prior convictions flashed on screens, ex's affidavits painting patterns of control. The judge's gavel fell swift. Case dismissed. Restraining order ironclad. Harassment ends here, she intoned. Relief crashed like waves, but victory tasted bittersweet. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Gay couple triumphs over ex's vendetta. Cameras flashing, questions probing. Cameron shielded Luke, hailing a cab, but the exposure lingered, a double-edged blade. Back at the ranch, Dad waited on the porch, paper folded to the local blurb. Saw the news. Handled like men. His tone was gruff, but eyes gleamed pride, unadorned. Luke clapped his shoulder. Thanks to you, John. Kept us steady. Dad's nod was fractional. Reckon I did wrong by Cam. Early on. Fear. Mostly. Losing him to. Whatever. The confession hung, air thick with harvest dust. Cameron knelt by the chair, hand on Dad's knee. You didn't lose me. Just had to find my way back. Tears tracked Dad's weathered cheeks. First Cameron had seen. Love you, son. And you, Harlan. Luke. Whatever. Hugs followed. Awkward but authentic. Mom weeping joyful in the kitchen. The ranch felt reborn. Barriers crumbling like old silo walls. Autumn wove gold threads through the conflict. But deeper betrayal brewed unforeseen. In October, during a Chicago gallery crawl, Luke's poetry chapbook launch overlapping Cameron's exhibit. They crossed paths with Riley, the dancer from Coffee Days. Now a choreographer, lithe and luminous, the air-kissed cheeks, eyes lingering on Luke with old familiarity. Missed your ink, Riley purred, fingers brushing Luke's wrist tattoo. That night in Nashville? Epic. Cameron's laugh faltered. Nashville? Riley blinked. Innocent. Launch party last spring. Luke headlined Wild After Party. You weren't there yet, right? Luke's face drained. Excuses tumbling. Just a gig, Cam. Nothing, but doubt seated. Homebound on the L. Cameron probed. After party? With Tommy's shadow hanging. Networking, Luke insisted, but evasion colored his tone. Poetry scenes tight-knit. Seeds sprouted in silence. Late nights at networking events. Luke's phone buzzing deleted. Cameron buried in work. A mural for a pride center. Rainbows arching over brick. But paranoia gnawed. Climax crested in November chill. Current date etching irony. November 16th, 2025. Anniversary Eve. Cameron planned surprise. A reading at a cozy Andersonville bookstore. Their story scripted into verse. But Luke vanished post-shop shift. Texts unanswered. Panic propelled Cameron to the ranch, instinct screaming home. Mom answered, puzzled. Luke? He dropped by earlier. Said something about closure. Dad wheeled forward. Face grim. Boys in the barn. Go easy. Twilight draped the structure in purple shadow. Lanterns flickering like fireflies. Inside, voices echoed. Luke's. Low and pleading. Another's, Riley's. Smooth as sin. Dot can't keep pretending, Riley said. Silhouette close. That night wasn't nothing. You felt it. Luke's sigh fractured. I love Cam. Married him. This us, it's betrayal. The word detonated. Cameron burst through. Heart-shattering glass. Betrayal? After everything. Luke spun. Horror etching. Cam, wait. Riley smirked. Unrepentant. Truth hurts. Artist boy. Fury blurred vision. Cameron lunged, not at Riley, but the betrayal incarnate. You ran once. Now this? For what? A fling. Luke reached. Desperate. It was one night. Spring. After Tommy. I was lost, drunk, stupid. Ended it. Swear. Riley scoffed. Slinking out. Call me when you grow balls. Harlan. Alone. Wreckage. Cameron's sobs echoing haysent. Luke crumpling to knees. Forgive me. Please. You're my rise. But trust. Fragile as autumn leaves. Crumbled. I can't, Cameron whispered. Fleeing to the house. Door slamming like finality. Mom found him curled on the porch swing. Dawn creeping. Talk to him, baby. Love's messy. Dad's voice rumbled from the doorway. Hayes men don't run from hard. Learned that late. Mediation unfolded raw. Kitchen table confessions. Luke bearing the indiscretion guilt-fueled lapse. Riley's pursuit rebuffed but tempted. Feared losing you to my mess. Pushed away. Pulled back wrong. Cameron raged. Grieved. Then quieted. We vowed forever. But forever needs trust. Luke nodded, tears carving tracks. Rebuild it. I'll earn it. Reconciliation's path wound thorny. Therapy sessions in KC. Queer affirmative counselors unpacking baggage. Dad joining once. Gruff admissions of his own repressed youth. Loved a sailor. Korea. Buried it. Vulnerability bonded them triply. Father, son, in-law forging steel from shards. Winter solstice brought pivot. Luke's proposal renewed. Rings exchanged anew under ranch mistletoe. Second chances, he murmured. Cameron accepted, wary but willing. Don't make me regret. The new year dawned crystalline. Frost etching windows like lace promises. The Midwest holding its breath against January's bite. The Hayes Ranch, once a bastion of brittle silences, hummed with tentative harmony, laughter filtering from the kitchen where Mom orchestrated pancake symphonies, Dad's wheelchair a throne from which he dispensed wry wisdoms. Pass the syrup. Harlan, earn your keep. He'd bark, but the edge was blunted, affection sneaking in like sunlight through cracks. Cameron and Luke navigated the rebuild with deliberate steps. Date nights in KC jazz clubs, hands clasped under tables scarred by decades of spilled dreams. Therapy homework scrawled in journals. What scares you most? Yielding truths like losing the man who saw me first. Trust regrew. Fragile shoots pushing through frozen soil, watered by apologies and acts. Luke's poetry chapbook dedicated to See My Anchor, My Storm. Cameron's portrait of them both, entwined in golden hour, hung above the mantel like a vow renewed. Spring unfurled verdant, conflict's embers cooled to ash. Dad's PT miracles, walking unaided by April, Cain a mere prop mirrored their mending. Stubborn Hayes blood, he grumbled at barbecues, flipping burgers with Luke, tales of mill escapades blending with tattoo lore. Mom beamed, garden thriving, whispering to Cameron, your father's softer than biscuit dough now. Tommy's final gasp arrived in May, a dismissed appeal, letter of retraction slithering through mail slots. Enough, it read, signed with venom but void of power. They framed it ironically in the barn studio. Toast raised, to ghosts exorcised. Cameron's star ascended. A fellowship to the School of the Art Institute. Murals commissioned coast to coast, but roots held firm. He commuted weekends, sketching the ranch's sprawl, corn silk waves, horizon kisses, infusing urban works with heartland soul. Luke's haven expanded, a collective now. Guest artists inking under beams, open mics drawing queer voices from prairies wide. Summer solstice marked milestone. Their first anniversary, celebrated lakeside in Chicago, Jasper splashing at Navy Pier's edge. Fireworks burst overhead, echoes of that July revelation, but now joy laced the bursts. 1 year, Luke murmured, ring glinting as he pulled Cameron close. Worth every scar, every storm, Cameron echoed, lips meeting in salt-kissed promise. Yet humanism's depth plumbed darker waters. In August heat, Dad's cough persisted, dry hack turning wet, doc visits yielding shadows on scans. Early stage, the oncologist said, voice clinical. Lung. From the mill dust. Likely. Prognosis. Treatable. But time's thief. The diagnosis landed like thunderclap. Family circle tightening. Chemo suites became ritual. Mom packing care kits with ginger chews and crosswords. Luke reading poetry in waiting rooms. Verses of defiance. Cameron sketching Dad's portrait mid-treatment. Bald head defiant. Eyes fierce as youth. Make me look like a warrior, Dad rasped. gripping his hand. Not some bald eagle plucked. You're both, Cameron replied. Brush steady. Betrayal's old wound served as scar tissue now, strength drawn from fractures. Luke confessed nightly fears. What if I lose him too soon? Like Mama. Cameron held him through tremors, whispering, then we carry the light he lit. Fall painted the ranch in fire hues, harvest moons gilding gatherings. Dad rallied, scans shrinking tumors, spirit unbowed. One crisp October eve, as leaves crackled underfoot, he gathered them on the porch swing, creak of chains a metronome to memory. Been thinkin', Dad started, voice gravel soft. All this wreck, fights, ink and art, taught me. Denied you, Kem, 'cause I denied myself. Feared the world che win up what I loved. Pause. Hand on Luke's knee. You knockin' that night after the storm? Best damn thing. Showed me redemption's a door, not a wall. Luke's eyes misted. Oh, you the same, John. For lettin' us in. Dad's chuckle wheezed. Family's queer now, ain't it? Suits us. Winter whispered closure's approach, but not defeat. Christmas swelled the ranch. Siblings from afar, Cameron's aunts. Cousins thawing biases. Carols belted off-key. Jasper decked in antlers. Dad, frail but fierce, gifted Luke a leather-bound journal. For your words, son, and Cameron a toolbox, engraved, build what lasts. New Year's Eve, under a canopy of stars pricked sharp, they danced slow in the yard, Luke and Cameron, then pulling Dad in, Mom laughing. Fire pit crackled, marshmallows toasting golden, stories looping like vines. Climax crested gentle. Dad's final scan in February 2026, clear margins, remission's gift. Ain't dyin' yet, he declared. Kane tossed aside. Got grandkids to corrupt. The word hung future-seated. Cameron and Luke exchanged glances. Dreams aligning. Adoption whispers. A nursery in Pilsen's muraled walls. Betrayal's echo faded to footnote, replaced by depth's romance. Love not flawless, but forged, dramatic in storms weathered, emotional in tears shared, humanistic in grace extended. They returned to Chicago, ranch a second heart beating steady. Years wove onward, Jasper gray-muzzled, watching toddlers chase fireflies, Luke's spoken-word tours, Cameron headlining galleries. Visits home where Dad grilled with vigor, Mom's pies legendary. Pride parades saw them marching, rainbow flags snapping, Dad's sign, proud dad of a gay son and his husband. In quiet moments, dawn coffee on the fire escape, Luke's head on Cameron's shoulder, they reflected. From denial to this, Cameron mused, fingers laced. Luke smiled, hazel warm. Rescue goes both ways, and in the end, the door that once slammed shut stood open wide. Love's knock answered, forever resounding.